the former assistant manager came in and revenge pooped on the floor, all because he was fired. That's what my boyfriend's cat does whenever he like scolds her. Hey guys, it's Nicole. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe. I like to post about books and music, mostly Taylor Swift. I also like to do the occasional story time. Does anybody even do story times anymore? I don't care. I do them and you guys seem to like them. I like letting you guys into my life a little bit more. Today we're going to be talking about my experience working retail. Ever since I graduated college last year, it's been really nice to be qualified for positions that don't involve Karens, DRUG addicts, former assistant managers who poop on the floor. It's a relief. However, while I was in college, that was a different story. It was the summer of 2019. Pickings were slim, okay, because I was only returning to my hometown for 3 months, which a lot of interviews I attended did not like. If you want a whole video of tips on how to get a job just for 3 months over summer break while you're in college, I will link my video on that up here. But a lot of my interviews did not like that I was only going to be there for 3 months, so I began lying. But even while doing that, so many places I was interviewing for did not want to hire anybody who had any kind of college education. I was really struggling. I felt like I was already overqualified, but I didn't even have this degree that would allow me to qualify to get different types of jobs. It was a whole struggle. Anyways, I somehow amassed a lot of very interesting stories only working 3 months in retail, so we're going to get into those today. Finally, I get hired onto a pool supply store, and it is my first job ever. The hours were obviously amazing because I was a seasonal worker. Seasonal, you usually think Christmas, but for a pool store, seasonal hours are during the summertime. I was regularly working over 40 hours a week during the peak weeks because there were just so many customers. So I was getting that sweet, sweet time and a half. Just kidding, it really wasn't that sweet. I was making $8.50 an hour, and the shit I had to deal with, literally. So my responsibilities included checking people out, answering the phone, and my favorite part, testing people's samples of their pool water and advising them on what chemicals they needed to buy for their pool. People were regularly spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on upkeep, or when I had to tell them to drain their pool, which is so expensive. I get it, it hurts, but you don't gotta yell at me. These were like the richest people in my town, obviously, for the most part, and I don't live in a rich town, so it's like that level of rich where they think they're hot shit, but also like they're terrified of losing all of their money for some reason, so they take it out on me because I must have ulterior motives. Obviously, they don't pay me $8.50 for nothing. Some of the best customers were the absolutely loaded ones because there is a certain kindness and generosity to them. Water tests are free, but they would always try to tip us big bills, like those kinds of rich people that think a banana is $10. The main thing I learned on this job was that if you're going to have a pool, go ahead and splurge on making it indoor, because the second it rains or an animal poops in it, it's over. Everything's a mess, and there goes another few $100s. I live in Oklahoma. If you know, the summer of 2019 in Oklahoma, all it did was rain and tornado all summer. I had friends who lost their home in the floods. It would be like tornado warning, get down, flood warning, get up. Meanwhile, you're 3 hours deep in your Benadryl sleep with tornado sirens going off like 5 times a day. So there were a lot of fucked up pools that summer, and it was not my fault, okay? I just want to get my beef with corporate out of the way first. Our uniform was khaki pants, which are impossible to find if you're a 6 foot tall thick bitch, if you were wondering, and a solid color t-shirt. I think I ended up spending more on my pants than I actually made in those 3 months, and it was mostly khaki leggings that I could find in my size, which essentially just made me look naked from the waist down. Dress pants are already hard to find, but of a specific nude color. Thanks, I hate it, corporate. I had the coolest boss, but my boss's boss was... He would only come in like once a month, and I would have to tuck my shirt into my naked leggings and you could see everything. I was so visibly uncomfortable, I didn't want to come out from behind the counter. My boss hated it too. He would be like, I would never buy something from someone who has their shirt tucked in. It looks so gross to have your gut hanging out. And then as his boss was leaving, we were all standing behind the desk waving, and then like it was synchronized. As he's pulling out of the parking lot, we all pull our shirts out of our pants. And my boss apologized to me for making me tuck in in my shirt. I loved my boss so much. Honestly, he and my coworkers are like the reason I did not go insane. Also, a huge problem we were running into was just being short-staffed that summer. No one was swimming because it was tornadoing and flooding all summer, but everybody was coming in to get water tests. So there would be like 2 of us there, one of us doing water tests because there's only one water test station, and the other one would be on the register, and the line would be out the door, but no one would be buying anything. I guess they were just listening to our advice and then buying their chlorine elsewhere. So profits for the company were low, so they stopped scheduling us. But like, who's gonna do all these free water tests you guys are offering? There weren't enough of us. Terrible business model. But anytime corporate came, my boss's boss, we were expected to do the insert company name here greeting, meaning one of us was supposed to also stand at the door and greet the 50 customers that we couldn't even fit in the store by smiling, welcoming them, and shaking their hand. If I walk into a store and someone tries to shake my hand, I'm turning around. I mean, this is typical for corporate to just be incredibly out of touch with what's actually going on in the store. I wouldn't say that's specific to this company. Like, what sales associate has time to do this? Hire a hostess. What the fuck? Customers and Karens would get so angry that it took so long to do anything in that store. My coworker and I would take separate lunches, so one of us could work with the 50 customers while the other one ate, but our break room only had a half wall, so the customers could see us in there eating. They don't typically like that. I almost crawled under the desk and ate my tacos there because they just would not stop staring at me through the opening, looking fucking sad that I'm not checking them out. One woman came up and had the audacity to yell at me for not also working. Like, she yelled at me to go help another customer that wasn't even her. Corporate, why? I am visibly on my lunch break. Like, that was a choice. I cannot imagine seeing an employee eating in what is obviously a break room and being like, not on my fucking watch. We also had this customer who would come in to have us test his pool water, and the first step in testing someone's pool water is to ask them how the pool is looking because we need to know if it's green. And I would ask this guy how the pool looks, and he would say, as beautiful as you. Sir, I am a chlorine covered rat currently. Even working in a pool store, you are not free from these kinds of comments. Then there's just the customers coming in to ask stupid questions in general. Someone was trying to get me to test the water from their well. I did it anyway. It didn't have enough chlorine in it. I don't know what answer she was looking for. Like, everything our parameters advised her to do was to make it into a pool. But some woman came in with some question that I cannot remember. But all I can remember is my coworker looking at her and saying, we cannot help her and she's going to have to call the Oklahoma Department of Water. I will never forget the phrase Oklahoma Department of Water as long as I live. And she was like, oh my God, okay, thank you, I'll do that, and left. Like, that's all it takes. That was one of my first days. So I definitely learned some lessons for how to get people asking odd questions off your back. Oklahoma Department of Water. That's just gonna be my go-to answer. Also, I might be in the minority here, but personally, I loved it when a customer came in, got mad at me, and then asked to speak to my manager. Cause I'd be like, yo, manager, get in here. This is your problem now, not mine. One time my coworker, who was the same age as me, but just a lot shorter, was having the worst time with this customer, and the customer came back the next week and she was like, Nicole, please take him. I can't do this again. And I was like, sure, why not? Let me have a go. And I go to assist him and he is just so pleasant with me and we're having a fine time getting him checked out. And then he thanks me for being so helpful and goes on to complain about my coworker calling her some young girl. That's when it hit me. This man looking up at me probably equated my height to like an extra 20 years of wisdom. I'm like, oh yes, silly young people these days. Whenever my only other female coworker and I were the only ones in the store, in general, it was absolute hell because we were both just 2 blonde girls in our late teens and most customers could tell we were 2 young girls, other than the customer I mentioned previously who thought I was oh so aged and wise. But for the most part, they just thought we didn't know shit or had ulterior motives. I noticed such a difference in the way they talked to us generally versus our male coworkers and our manager. One guy came in when it was just us 2 and he was like, I called your store asking if you had vinyl pool liners, and he said you have one in the back. First of all, I don't know who he is because we are the only two girls here. And I said, sorry, my boss says you can order them online, because I texted my boss asking if we had any on his day off for this customer, and he's just staring at me. And so I'm staring back, and he goes, you don't want to sell the one you have? At a certain point, you're like, do you want to just go fucking look in the back? Have at it. I'm like, sir, I don't know who he is. Like, did God speak to you telling you we have a pool liner and I'm just some evil person trying to hide it from you? He ended up completely storming out of the store. There would also be just like the sweetest old ladies who were absolutely terrible with technology, and one of them made me wait over 10 minutes to load a coupon on her phone that ended up just being an email that said $10 off your first online order, and then when you click it, it just directs you to the website to get $10 off your first online order. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, this isn't a coupon, it's just an offer for money off your first online order. Ma'am, you are in a store. Coupons in general just made me want to die. There was this one guy who would come in with expired coupons that he had ripped the expiration date off of, and so I would scan it and the computer would say this coupon expired in May, and I would say, I'm so sorry, this coupon expired back in May, and he would say, well, I don't see an expiration date. Sir, that's because you ripped it off. And then he gave me another one where he had ripped off the barcode, so there was nothing to scan. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? Until you work retail, you do not realize how many entitled idiots there are out there. Like, I can't imagine people really rip their coupons in half and expect the store to take them, or think that just by ripping the expiration date off, the computer is not going to tell by the barcode that it's expired. Ooh, also, so we would open at like 8 or 9 a.m. each day, and there would be a line at the door, usually of retired people with water samples ready for us to test them. But then at a certain point in the summer, they just start dropping those water bottles off on the sidewalk in front of the door. So there would just be piles and piles of unattended water bottles. Before we've even clocked in. Like, how are we supposed to know whose pools these are? And before I get to the story I know you all have been waiting for, first, I know you guys are curious, I'm going to tell you about the DRUG addicts. I think you can make METH out of pool chemicals. Tulsa was once the METH capital of the world, or at least the country. So we would have just really odd behaving customers coming in, and I thought maybe they just had some kind of neurological condition because I had never seen tweakers. And it wasn't until they left and my boss had loaded their buckets and buckets of chemicals in their car that he came back in and told me, like, yep, that was your first METH addict and it won't be your last. Sometimes they would come in and steal chemicals. We had this policy where if you buy everything we advise you to buy and your pool still turns green, the chemicals you would need to fix that are free. But they would just come in and grab things and leave. Like, we're still supposed to scan the items so they are accounted for. But man, I was making $8.50 an hour, so I just watched from afar. I mean, I told my boss, but I'm not gonna go and fight them. They're on METH. Who knows what super strength they have? Okay, now I'm going to give you the story you've all been waiting for. The literal shit we had to deal with. So there was no assistant manager there when I was working there because he had gotten fired right before I got hired on as a sales associate. So it was just my manager and us 4 sales associates. This manager was so beyond reasonable and amazing. He gave me the days off I requested. He told me to leave when a tornado was coming for the store instead of staying and turning a profit. I still to this day cannot understand how he got fired from this man, but he did, and my manager told me he was really weird and that my manager never liked him anyway. He regularly cussed my manager out on several occasions before actually getting fired. Anyway, this lovely chap of a fired man came in conveniently on a day when there were only new sales associates there and no manager responsible for firing him. None of us new people had ever met him. Like, he literally made sure the other workers' cars weren't in the parking lot, and he approaches my co-worker who's never met this man before in her life, and he just looks wrecked. He's sweating, he's fucked up, just absolutely packed with vengeance. And he asks if we have a bathroom, and she says yes. He turns and starts walking towards it, and then turns around real quick and asks her, oh, where is it? The steps this man went to for this. So she directs him to it, and my co-worker is swamped with customers, obviously, so she completely forgets about this. But then later on, this sweet old lady approaches her and says, honey, something awful has happened in the bathroom. It was a single person bathroom with just one toilet, and he had pooped all over it, the floor, the walls, the sides of the toilet, everywhere but inside of the toilet. He was long gone by this point by the time someone's poor grandmother had stumbled upon this crime scene. So my coworker is calling our manager like, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do. And he says, just block the bathroom off, make sure no customers go in there, and I'll take care of it tomorrow. The next day we were all there for some reason, like all 5 of us, and my aforementioned coworker and the other guy who was scheduled that day are explaining this tale and asking if there's any way to get this guy banned from the store. So my manager asks them to describe the appearance of this guy. And as my coworker is doing so, the pieces are starting to come together on my manager's face. The former assistant manager came in and revenge pooped on the floor, all because he was fired. Revenge pooped on the floor. That's what my boyfriend's cat does whenever he like scolds her. That just seems like a lot. Like, go to therapy. And the amount of planning it took to do this, he had to have his diarrhea ready to go. Like, you gotta come prepared. He had to make sure his former coworkers were not in that day, so he had to check the parking lot for cars. How long was he planning this? Did he just like eat a bunch of Taco Bell and then drive by and think, well, I'll try again tomorrow if he sees my boss's car? The dedication. And my boss showed my coworker a picture of him and she said, yeah, that's him. Corporate was also able to come out and check the security footage to also confirm. I went back to school before seeing the rest of it unfold, but I'm pretty sure you can press charges for that. We were all discussing the progression of it a little before I left, but yeah, I have no idea how that actually went down. But yeah, I really hope my manager got justice. I remember being so incredulous talking to him and I said, what an asshole, and he said, yep, that's what assholes do. Oh my god, I miss that wonderful man and his husband. He and his husband bought me pizza so many times because he worked right next door, so we'd all just like eat lunch together. Or the time they brought like a full barbecue spread on the 4th of July and I was so well fed. Man, god, he doesn't deserve that. Anyway, that was my experience working retail for only 3 months. You don't think much can happen in 3 months, but holy literal shit. Was it like this for any of you? Like, I can't imagine working a full year of retail and having shit like this happen over that long of a period. Or was my situation just insane and not actually the norm, as many of my situations usually are? If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Please let me know any video requests you might have down in the comments. I really need ideas. If you want to follow me on my Instagram, it is right here, and if you want to follow me on my TikTok, that is right here. I will see you all next week for another video, and I hope you have a better day than my manager had. Bye guys.